concept of the Antichrist has fascinated humanity for centuries, sparking intense theological debates, conspiracy theories, and widespread speculation about the nature of ultimate evil. This mysterious figure has captured the imagination of believers and skeptics alike, transcending religious boundaries and becoming a cultural phenomenon that continues to intrigue people across generations. Throughout history, religious texts, particularly the Christian Bible, have referenced a powerful end-times figure who will emerge as a charismatic global leader, ultimately opposing traditional religious beliefs and seeking to establish a new world order. The term Antichrist itself comes from the Greek words antia, meaning instead of org in place of, and Christus, meaning anointed one, suggesting a powerful counterfeit spiritual leader who will attempt to replace or mimic the role of Jesus Christ. Biblical scholars have long interpreted various scriptural passages as potential descriptions of this enigmatic figure. The Book of Revelation, the most apocalyptic text in the New Testament, provides cryptic references to a charismatic leader who will rise to global prominence during a period of unprecedented global turmoil. These descriptions paint a picture of an individual with extraordinary political and persuasive capabilities, someone who will seemingly offer solutions to complex global challenges while secretly harboring malevolent intentions. Theological interpretations of the Antichrist vary widely across different Christian denominations. Some traditions view the concept as a literal future individual, while others interpret it more metaphorically as a systemic or spiritual opposition to divine principles. The diversity of these interpretations reflects the complex nature of eschatological, end-times, theology and the challenges of translating ancient prophetic texts into contemporary understanding. Historical context is crucial when examining the Antichrist narrative. Throughout different periods, various leaders and figures have been labeled as potential manifestations of this prophesied entity. During the Protestant Reformation, for instance, Catholics were accused of being agents of the Antichrist, while Catholics similarly denounced Protestant leaders. Rulers like Napoleon Bonaparte, Hitler, and more recently, various world political figures have been suggested as potential fulfillments of these apocalyptic prophecies. Modern theological scholarship approaches the Antichrist concept with increased nuance and academic rigor. Contemporary biblical scholars often emphasize the symbolic and metaphorical aspects of these prophecies, suggesting that the Antichrist represents a broader spiritual concept rather than a singular, identifiable person. This perspective allows for more flexible interpretations that can adapt to changing global landscapes and evolving theological understanding. Psychological and sociological perspectives offer fascinating insights into why the Antichrist narrative remains so compelling. The idea of a charismatic, seemingly solution-oriented leader who ultimately reveals sinister intentions taps into deep-seated human fears about manipulation, power, and moral corruption. This archetype resonates across cultures, reflecting universal anxieties about leadership, deception, and the potential for systemic evil. Interestingly, the concept of an ultimate evil leader isn't confined to Christian theology. Similar narratives exist in other religious traditions, including Islamic eschatology, which describes the Dajjal, a false messiah who will temporarily deceive humanity. These parallel traditions suggest a cross-cultural recognition of the potential for profound spiritual deception and the human vulnerability to charismatic but ultimately destructive leadership. Technological advancements in the 21st century have added new dimensions to Antichrist speculation. The rise of global communication networks, artificial intelligence, advanced surveillance technologies, and interconnected economic systems have led some theorists to propose that the Antichrist might emerge through technological infrastructure rather than as a traditional political leader. These perspectives suggest that spiritual warfare might increasingly manifest through digital and systemic means. Geopolitical developments continue to fuel Antichrist theories. Global political instability, economic uncertainties, and emerging technological capabilities create an environment ripe for apocalyptic speculation. Each major world event, whether a pandemic, economic crisis, or significant geopolitical shift, seems to generate renewed interest in end-times prophecies and potential Antichrist scenarios. Scientific perspectives offer a counterpoint to purely theological interpretations. Researchers in fields like psychology and sociology examine these narratives through lenses of collective human behavior, exploring how apocalyptic beliefs function as meaning-making mechanisms during times of social uncertainty. These academic approaches don't necessarily dismiss spiritual interpretations but provide complementary frameworks for understanding such profound cultural narratives. The media and popular culture have significantly contributed to public perceptions of the Antichrist. Movies, books, and television series have dramatized these concepts, often blending religious mythology with speculative fiction. While these representations might seem sensationalist, they reflect ongoing cultural fascination with the concept of ultimate evil and humanity's potential vulnerability to sophisticated forms of spiritual and political deception. Philosophical debates surrounding the Antichrist often transcend religious boundaries. The fundamental questions raised by this concept touch on profound human concerns about free will, moral choice, and the potential for systemic evil. These discussions explore how individual and collective choices can potentially create environments conducive to destructive ideological movements. Contemporary theological discourse increasingly emphasizes interpretative nuance. Rather than viewing the Antichrist as a singular, identifiable person, many modern theologians suggest understanding this concept as a recurring spiritual dynamic, a metaphorical representation of systematic opposition to divine principles that can manifest in various historical and cultural contexts. Linguistic analysis of original biblical texts reveals complex interpretative challenges. The Greek and Hebrew source materials contain layers of metaphorical and symbolic language that resist simplistic, literal interpretations. This linguistic complexity demands sophisticated hermeneutical approaches that consider historical, cultural, and theological contexts. The psychological appeal of Antichrist narratives lies in their ability to provide explanatory frameworks for complex societal challenges. By attributing global uncertainties to a singular, identifiable source of evil, these narratives offer a sense of comprehension and potential resolution to seemingly unmanageable social dynamics. Emerging global challenges like climate change, technological disruption, and shifting geopolitical power structures have reinvigorated apocalyptic thinking. These unprecedented global transformations create environments where radical reinterpretations of traditional prophetic narratives become increasingly appealing to individuals seeking comprehensive explanations for systemic complexities. Interfaith dialogues have increasingly recognized the shared apocalyptic themes across different religious traditions. While specific details vary, the underlying narrative of a final confrontation between good and evil remains a remarkably consistent motif, suggesting profound psychological and spiritual commonalities across human cultural experiences. Ethical considerations are paramount when discussing such charged theological concepts. Responsible exploration requires balanced perspectives that respect diverse religious beliefs while maintaining critical analytical frameworks. The goal should be understanding rather than sensationalism, nuanced interpretation rather than reductive explanations. As we navigate the complexities of the 21st century, the Antichrist narrative continues to evolve. No longer confined to traditional theological boundaries, this concept has become a dynamic cultural discourse exploring humanity's deepest fears and most profound spiritual questions. Ultimately, whether one views the Antichrist as a literal future figure, a metaphorical spiritual concept, or a sophisticated cultural mythology, these narratives reveal fundamental truths about human nature, our capacity for both extraordinary goodness and potential systemic corruption. The ongoing fascination with the Antichrist reminds us that humanity's spiritual and philosophical quest for understanding continues, transcending specific religious or cultural boundaries. It invites us to remain critically thoughtful, ethically grounded, and open to complex, nuanced interpretations of our shared human experience.